for the past now 3 years that we have been doing a formal and a very comprehensive survey, and the results of which my colleague would just be presenting. All I can say is that they form a very important input into various, for example, the national accounts data that we put out. Different ministries use it, including the Ministry of MSME, Textiles, Commerce, etc. So with this introduction, we will have a short presentation. I'm sure a lot of the questions, the data would be released, and would be happy to address any issues after that. Please.
Good afternoon, everyone. Now I will just present a snapshot of the result. The fact sheet has already been released, and it is available in our website, also in the website of the PRB. First, the survey at a glance, what ASUSE is all about. It is primarily conducted to estimate the operational and economic characteristics of the unincorporated sector. As our Secretary Sir has already emphasized that it is a very important sector. It employs a lot of people in, so livelihood of a huge population depends on this particular sector. It also provides the key input in goods and services to the incorporated sector, and that way it is a very important component of the domestic supply chain. We conducted the survey of ASUS 23-24 from October 2023 to September 2024. The survey was a 1-year survey. It is an annual survey which was conducted during this period. Sampling strategy, I will not get into the details of that, but we followed a multi-stress stratified sampling using an area frame. That is a common NSS practice where the first stage units are the villages or urban frame survey blocks in the urban area, villages in rural area, where from the selected first stage unit we do the listing of all the establishments in that particular village or UFS block, and then from that particular selected first stage unit we do random sampling of establishments. So establishments are basically the respondents for this survey. We get our data from the establishments, and we covered around 4.98 lakh establishments during this survey, 2.73 lakh in rural area and 2.25 lakh in the urban area. The respondents, as I already said, it's an establishment, and the survey was done in digital mode. Totally there was no paper schedule. MOSPI doesn't use any paper schedule anymore in any of its survey. It was done in digital mode. Data was captured in tablet using computer-assisted personal interviewing system. Briefly, the coverage of the survey, it covers the entire country except some inaccessible villages in Andaman and Nicobar Islands. And broad category-wise, it captures the manufacturing, trade, and other services sector, excluding construction. Ownership-wise, the survey covers proprietorship, the partnerships, excluding the limited liability partnerships, because they are in the incorporated sector. Then self-help groups, cooperative, society, trust. So these are all covered under this survey. We do not cover any company that is which is incorporated under the Company Act, and also the units that are covered under annual survey of industry, which is basically for the registered manufacturing sector, that is not covered in this survey. So this is the data snapshot. You can all find this data in our press note and also in our fact sheet. The number of establishment is now 7.34 crore. There is an increase of around 12.84%. Worker growth, worker stands at 12.06 crore. Here also, in the last 1 year, from the last survey, we added almost 1 crore of worker in this sector. The emolument of, there is a growth of 10% in the worker. Emolument per hired worker, it also has shown a growth of around 13%. GPA per establishment has also gone up from the last year survey. And GPA per worker, which is an indicator of the labor productivity, has also increased by around 5.62% in this particular survey. So these are the key highlights. You can see these highlights in our fact sheet as well. I am just producing from our fact sheet. The data in the parentheses are showing the growth rate in that particular year. So you can see that number of establishment has gone up by 12.84%. The number of workers has gone up by 10%. And the gross value added in the nominal prices has gone up by 16.52%, which is a sizable increase as compared to the last year's survey. If we see the broad activity-wise category, the manufacturing, trade and other services, we can see the major driver of this growth is the other services sector, which accounts for the most number of establishments, workers, and also has shown the highest growth in this particular sector, which is followed by the manufacturing sector. You can see all these data in our fact sheet that we have already put out in our website, and also in the kit that we have circulated here. And if we see the key highlights, the key indicators, the percentage of market establishment has remained almost same. It is marginally increased. Emolument per hired worker, as I already said, has increased by 13% in nominal prices. Gross value added per establishment has also gone up along with the gross value added per worker. So almost in all major indicators, the survey has shown a good improvement from the last year's data, showing and service sector, as I already said, is a major driver of this growth for this particular unincorporated sector. These two important flags that we can make out from this survey is that percentage of establishments using internet for their business purposes, for their entrepreneurial purposes has gone up from 21.1% to 26.7%, showing more digital absorption in that particular sector. And also very important and interestingly, the percentage of female-owned proprietary establishment has gone up significantly from 22.9% last year to 26.2% this year. So these are also some good signals that we are getting from this survey. So this is a plan of release. We have released a fact sheet of this data today within 3 months from the completion of the survey. Our field work was completed in the month of September 2024. Within 3 months, we are bringing out the fact sheet, which gives a panoptic view of the data. Then more granular data at state and industry level will bring out in a detailed report and tables in the next month, along with the unit level data and metadata. Of course, the unit level data will be anonymized. And then thereafter, we will have this interactive table and visualization after the releasing the report in our website in the e-Sankheki portal. You can see, you can play with our data that will be available in our website. Thank you. That was all for this snapshot.
Thank you. I'll just, for the benefit of all of you, I'll just summarize or just highlight 3 or 4 points. Number one, as was mentioned, the unincorporated sector enterprises play a very important role in the economy in 3 aspects. 1, in providing livelihoods. 2, in being an important factor in the entire supply chain, because a lot of the goods and supplies, goods and services are produced out here. And they provide employment to a large number of people. The key figures are that there are now 7.34 crore establishments in the country, which is a significant rise from the previous year. There are more than 12 crore workers now, 12.06 crore workers are employed in the unincorporated sector. And the average emolument per hired worker is nearly 1.5 lakhs per annum, 1.42 lakhs is the average emolument. And the gross value added per worker is also a significant 1.5 lakhs. In fact, it is higher at 1.49, which shows that the productivity of these enterprises is also increasing. If I can just, among the establishments, nearly 27% are in the manufacturing sector, 31% in the trade sector, and 42% are in other services. And this breakup is more or less similar in terms of whether it's the workers or it's the gross value added. 2 significant features which I would especially like to mention is that the digital economy is increasing. The digital public infrastructure is expanding in India, and it's showing that the percentage of establishments which are using the internet for business purposes is now nearly 27%. Which is a significant rise from what it was earlier. And second, that the number of female-owned proprietary establishments is now more than 26%. And this is also on an increasing trend. So I would stop here, and I would request my colleague, the Chief Economic Advisor, to add a few issues.
Thank you, Dr. Saurabh Garg. Good afternoon. Thank you, Dr. Saurabh Garg, and good afternoon, everybody. Uh, so, I think one thing we must remember is that unincorporated does not mean informal. There is a normal tendency to assume that unincorporated means informal. As the fact sheet clearly points out to you towards the end, unincorporated means those that are not registered under the Companies Act 1956 or 2013. They could be covered by other statutes in the country, in which case they are officially tracked. So unincorporated does not mean informal, so please keep that in mind. You could be LLPs, you could be other kinds of partnerships, and anyway you will come under shops and Establishment Act, etc. That is one point I would like to clarify. Second is, what this data shows is the lagged effect of the growth spurt that started when COVID abated after the first quarter of fiscal 21-22. Various policy initiatives that were supportive of entrepreneurship in general, or startups, women entrepreneurship, as Dr. Saurabh Garg pointed out, and also enterprises set up by scheduled castes and scheduled tribes, etc. So I think government's initiative on Stand Up and Startup India, and in general the emergency credit line guarantees, schemes, etc. that supported micro, small and medium enterprises during the COVID have allowed them to stabilize, and then once the economy began to grow, to be able to grow on their own steam as well, and that is what 23-24 ASUSE survey reveals to us. And again, as Dr. Garg pointed out, the fruits of digital connectivity are coming through. And naturally, it is not just about being internet enabled, but naturally it also means it opens up market opportunities through, in future, open network, digital commerce, or being able to access credit much more easily, create digital footprints both as entrepreneurs and for their enterprise as well. And in a way, this survey of 23-24 underscores the rationale or the logic or the background as to how the 8.2% GDP growth of FY24 was achieved, because you could see that in the fact that there was good growth in the unincorporated enterprises apart from the formal corporate sector. So I think these were all the additional points I wanted to make apart from what you heard from MOSPI colleagues and Dr. Saurabh. Thank you very much.
We'll start the Q&A session. So I request media to just have the decorum. Please introduce yourself and the. I'll request my media friends to first introduce yourself and from which organization you are from. And only one question is allowed from one media house as such. And over to you now, sir. If any questions are. Yeah, please.
Sir, this is Priyansh from Financial Express. So the data, although this is for 23-24, but it shows that the rural as well as urban wages, emoluments, have grown in rural as well as urban. But in the current financial year, so far, a lot of commentaries have come that urban wage growth has been slower. So the trend that is visible in the 23-24 data, do you believe that this year the wage growth would be much lower and that will reflect in the unincorporated sector data also?
So, first of all, I would just like to re-emphasize that if you look at the wage growth data, for example, if you look at ASUSE 22-23 and ASUSE 23-24, the emoluments per hired worker have significantly increased, and this data, this survey ended in September 2024. So it's not only of the financial year 23-24, it goes on until the first half of this year also. So I would just like to flag this issue, if Dr. Anantha Nageswaran would like to add.
No, that's fine. I have no.
Sir, one question from here, sir. Girish from me. Sir, the National Sample Survey 73rd round had said that there are 6.3 crore unincorporated MSMEs in the country, but in last year's unincorporated the annual survey mentioned that 6.3 crore. So I'm struggling to understand why that is not being growth in there.
No, see, if I can just mention that in 23-24, as per this survey, there are 7.34 crore establishments. That's an increase of nearly 1 crore from the previous year, which is an extremely healthy growth of establishments over the past 1 year.
No, sir. I was asking about the growth between the 15th, 16th NSSO round and last year.
Yeah, so that we had mentioned in the previous year's release. So we're talking about ASUSE 23-24, and that is showing a significant growth to 7.3 crore establishments. Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Manoj.
Manoj from Reuters.
You want a mic?
Manoj from Reuters. So in the previous 22-23 survey report, so there was mention of like nearly 28% are those manufacturing units which are hiring the people. So could you please share the details with what is the change in those numbers? Because other is the establishment which are assumed like owned by the people or the households, and there is only 28% of whereas the last year's number who are actually hiring the people.
Yeah. The proportion of own account establishments and hired worker establishments, I'll just give you the breakup of what is the own account and hired worker establishments. You have the number?
Yeah.
Oh, why don't you?
We have it. If I've understood the question correctly,
No.
you were mentioning that hired manufacturing establishments. Okay, fine. Hired manufacturing establishments in 2022-23, it was 13%. 12.72% of the total manufacturing enterprises, 12.72% were hired manufacturing establishments. This year it is 11.73. This year it is 11.73. You can refer to page number 9 of that fact sheet. It is there.
Okay.
And if you permit, just ask a supplementary question. So, Chief Economic Advisor, sir, so in nominal terms, we are seeing so there has been a growth in the wages. So, what is in real terms? What is your sense? Okay, what is the growth happening?
I mean, you can calculate that yourself based on the fact that there is nominal growth and you have the inflation rate, and that is the difference between the two is the real wage growth.
So, how much?
No, I mean, for example, it depends on whether you're talking about a formal hired worker, which is the growth rate is more than 20% here in terms of the total emoluments per formal worker across all types of unincorporated enterprises. Or for the informal workers, it's about roughly about 14%. So they are, as far as unincorporated enterprises are concerned, these survey shows that their overall emolument growth, whether you are an informal worker or a formal worker, has kept up a nominal growth rate that is well above the inflation rate. So, which means there is a significantly significant real wage growth.
Sir, just one follow-up since I asked that. Since you mentioned that the first half is also a part of it, but CA sir, you had mentioned a few weeks back that the corporate India wages.
So this is obviously unincorporated enterprises,
the
right?
Corporate India wages growth is lower, which is why you are seeing some laggard consumption in urban areas. So that's therefore it's more of.
So what is the question?
So you might just
Be very specific. Please.
What is the question?
I just want you to. So I just want to understand this is more of a corporate sector.
See, but this survey is about unincorporated enterprises, and when you asked an earlier question about overall urban compensation, you understand that it includes also the unlisted and listed corporate sector.
So the thing is that unincorporated are doing the wage growth is high.
That is as per the data given by them. The unincorporated enterprises, both formal and informal workers' emoluments have grown quite well between the two surveys.
Yes. Is there any other question? Yes, please. First, introduce yourself.
Sir, Ishan from Money Control. Sir, in other services which has grown very well, your urban areas have seen a decline in GPA for establishment. What's the reason for that?
So one thing which I would like to mention about you're talking about the other services, aren't you?
Yes, sir, page number 10.
Yeah. So two things which I would like to mention about the other services. Number one, it includes a large number of activities. For example, it includes land transport, it includes real estate activities, food accommodation, education services, health services, etc., and legal and accounting services. So some of these activities might be linked to areas which are, in the urban areas, which are linked to other services, other activities. So there could be, those are issues that we will have to get into in detail to understand what has been the reason for this differential growth. But the fact remains that there has been a growth.
Just to supplement Dr. Garg, in general, when you have quite a bit of growth in the number of new enterprises, which has gone up from 6.5 crores to 7.34 crores. Naturally, the new establishments will take a little longer to hit their full capacity utilization and value generation. And that is why you see both in manufacturing and in other services that there is a slight decline in the GVA generated between 22-23 and 23-24 with respect to urban India and in rural India. So this is because naturally you would expect over given sufficient time, the new enterprises will hit the stride and achieve better capacity utilization and output generation in the years to come. So that's why, as he said, we need to get into the granular data to be able to give you a more specific answer. Okay?
Yes, please. Introduce yourself.
I'm Ajay from Doordarshan. We will have specific women-oriented data and also the performance of self-help groups in particular.
Yeah, as I mentioned, and it was there in the presentation also, one is the total number of establishments which are owned by women, which has increased from ASUSE 22-23, which was 22.9% to 26.2%. And also, I think we have the gross value added of these, if you can just add that figure.
Or the number of women workers and the number of SLGs that have.
So, when the immediately data will be released after 1 month, you will have a complete profile. One can completely profile the health of the enterprises owned by females, or it is possible to identify the self-help groups that have been native in this particular survey. And then you can have all characteristics for that, their gross value added and number of workers and GDP per worker and all these things.
Any other question?
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now I would request that we do all reports for the council.
Thank you.
From the morning, there's a lot of speculation in the media, and as a result, there's